Hi, sir. We are live right now. So, to all
Hello.
the viewers watching out here, first of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Rajesh Dubey, uh, who has a very distinguished profile. Sir, first I would request you to introduce yourself, and then we will move to the business end of this session.
Okay. So, since people are interested in prospective candidates and employees of SIDBI, so I can introduce myself as one of the first batch of management trainee, which I got recruited in 91. And I spent 17 long years in SIDBI, and it was very good learning experience for me, wherein I was as a chartered accountant, I could contribute at the same time learn from SIDBI. So as part of SIDBI, I was involved in project finance, direct lending, and the setting up two institutions, the Credit Guarantee Fund Trust for Small Industries, and I was heading SMERA, the SME Rating Agency of India. So these two institutions were promoted by SIDBI, and I was heading it for the first 3 years. Then I joined ICRA as an executive director to set up the SME rating function. And since last about 10 years, I've been advising banks, NBFCs in rating model developments and also small and mid-sized companies in their growth plan. So very briefly, what that's about me. I'm looking forward to sharing my thoughts on how the candidates can prepare themselves for the interview with SIDBI.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. And 17 years in SIDBI, that's a great amount of time you would have spent there, I think. And there is no better person than you who can guide candidates. That is how to prepare for SIDBI, what can be asked in an interview, what do they look for a no, what do they look in a candidate while they are recruiting. So all this we are going to discuss, guys. Please be patient. In the end, I'll also take queries from your end. Trust me, you be with us for the next 25 minutes and you will get all the clarity on now SIDBI interview, how to prepare, what not to prepare, what kind of questions can be asked, what to wear. We are going to discuss everything A to Z of preparation of SIDBI. So, sir, first of all, I would like to discuss about a probable panel. I mean, what kind of people are there in the panel and what is the strength of that panel?
So panel could be anywhere between 3 to 5 people, and there could be different panels. So you need not necessarily get the same panel. So there, depending upon the number of candidates and location, there would be different panels would be interviewing. One would be the chairperson, who would be the senior most officer amongst the panel. And since the requirement this time is that I think they're requiring some people with technical backgrounds, engineering backgrounds. So then one of the panelists is more likely to be an engineer. One would be a generalist who would have a general understanding about the banking and the finance function. And there could be a person from the HR who would take care of, from the HR point of view, how the candidate is presenting himself. And usually what happens is the panelists make their own score, and then that gets added up to decide on the final outcome, which candidate can be selected and cannot be selected.
Right. So, sir, all the people are from SIDBI itself, or there are some external people also?
For grade A, it's more likely that all the people would be from SIDBI, from within SIDBI.
Okay. So now, sir, I would like to move on to the next area, I think, which mostly people would be looking for. What are the key areas one shall be preparing for an interview in SIDBI Grade
A? I think anyone who is appearing for SIDBI, the panelists would be expecting that they know a little bit about SIDBI. That's one. They know about what banking is, what development finance institutions do, what SIDBI has been doing. Key terms about banking and economy, because banking cannot be complete without an understanding of economy.
That's right.
So economy and industry, and if a candidate is coming from maybe a cluster, SME cluster from that area, or with background, technical background, then there could be questions about the cluster. There could be questions about what their understanding about SMEs are. And in the technical background, they will touch upon and try and understand that how fundamentally strong the candidate is in his or her field of vocation.
Sir, so the areas I've noted down is like functions of SIDBI, functions of development finance institutions, how do they work, key terms in banking and economy, about SMEs. Since SIDBI is working in an area of MSMEs, so does one also needs to read about MSME area as a whole, as in the Ministry of MSME, the MSMED Act, or other players in the MSME ecosystem? Is that necessary also, sir?
Yeah, it would be helpful. It would be definitely be helpful. So one can look at resources like the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises website,
Hmm.
some prominent schemes which are there,
Hmm.
and maybe few associations also list out the schemes, the government schemes which are there. Maybe CII website, FISME website are
Hmm.
the one where we can look at the schemes which are currently being quite operational and successful. They can be looked at. SIDBI's own annual report and its website is also quite resourceful enough to get information from.
Fine. And what is CAI, sir? You just said no CAI website.
CII,
CI.
Confederation of Indian Industry.
Fine. Got it. Got it. I heard CAI. Fine.
Mm.
So, sir, can there be any questions from family background or a professional background or educational background of a candidate?
Usually those questions are like an icebreaker to make the candidate at ease and see that okay, how is he presenting himself, and that okay, what has been the interest, and the next questions really start getting picked up from how he answers that. So if usually the interviewers can be led by the candidate in the areas that he wants them to go. So
Mm-hmm.
in case if the candidate has done some interesting projects, so you can mention about the projects also briefly. So that would be a cue for some interview panelists to pick up that and ask some questions relating to that as well.
Fine, sir. So the idea is that no, you should not delve too much into your family background or educational background. There would not be too much. I mean, if somebody is a computer engineer, they will not ask maybe in too detail about the computers and all, because the
Yeah,
basic.
maybe one or two questions may be there, but the recent development. So one is expected that okay, being a computer engineer or an electrical engineer, what the recent developments in the power
Crypto,
sector or in the IT sector,
blockchain
they should.
technology, something like that.
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay. And sir, we earlier discussed that it's good to have knowledge of MSME ecosystem. So what are the key players in that ecosystem that no one should be aware of, at least at a high level?
So SIDBI sits as an apex institution
Hmm.
in terms of channeling the financing for a micro, small, and medium enterprises, especially those areas which are not being catered by the banks.
Hmm.
So banks do have working capital finance for that matter, but there are areas where they need some extra facility or handholding which is required. Then SIDBI sits to provide that kind of inputs. Maybe
Hmm.
it also sets up other organizations or institutions which creates an other enabling environment for flow of credit from the banks to the SMEs, because SIDBI is limited in its reach. It is only located in most of the capital cities and prominent cities, whereas micro
Hmm.
and small and medium enterprise sector are spread geographically. They are more spatial.
Hmm.
So then it's difficult for SIDBI to reach out. Then it taps the other agencies, could be banks, could be NBFCs. Earlier, there
Hmm.
used to be state financial corporations, but most of them are defunct.
Hmm.
So that may not be available. But then there are other ecosystem players which can be tapped upon. Maybe the MFIs, through them it is lending. So it caters right from the micro segment to the larger of the medium enterprises who want to become large. So with the help of SIDBI's loan facility, they can become large. So it caters to that. It caters to all the other lenders who are helping the micro, small, and medium enterprises. So maybe NBFCs, so maybe other banks. So then it prepares the schemes which the banks or NBFCs can use for the purpose of on lending. So concessional lending can be provided by SIDBI to these entities, and they can on lend to the micros. So from a policy point of view, ministry is very much there, which decides on the schemes, but usually it takes inputs from SIDBI at what scheme should be promoted. So on the government side, at the state level, similarly, there is a smaller replica at the state level. The micro, small and medium enterprises, industries are there, and these arms are there, and through them there is a development commissioner who is focusing on development of the micro sector or small sector at the central level. So there's a government arm which is parallelly running, which creates some sort of skill development or similar programs, but where the finance is coming, SIDBI is there at the apex, and to direct the banks to lend to the priority sector, Reserve Bank is there, and to make enabling environment possible, Credit Guarantee Fund Trust is there. Then to see whether the information gap disparity is not there between the lender and the borrower. So then you have rating agencies. Then you have bureaus which share the credit score relating to the business entity or the promoters. So these enabling environment which are getting created or which have got created in the last 10 or 15 years has helped in a much more informed lending into the micro, small, and medium. So one has to know about all these different players, and then there are bodies from the SMEs themselves, the associations, which do the advocacy as to what is needed. So there is a constant interaction with the MSME associations also, and what the problems are. So jointly, everyone is working towards improving the ecosystem, but always there remains a gap. So that's where there is more demand and less of supply.
Yeah. So I think that's a very good brief overview of the ecosystem, and I hope students are aware now what are the players involved and what all they need to read before the interview. Now, sir, earlier you mentioned that SIDBI website is a very good resource to prepare for an interview. Now, when you go to the website, it's really wide, right? And on the internet also, there is a lot of information available. So can you suggest, sir, some key areas that one should read from SIDBI website, which are more probable to be asked in the interview?
So the best, I think, would be to look at the annual report. SIDBI annual report would be much more informative than the website alone. So key developments which takes place in a year, what are the challenges, the policy initiatives, it gets covered at length in the annual report. So that those chapters can be seen. Then one can also look at, in addition to SIDBI website and the government website, I would suggest even reading some of the master circulars or directions issued by Reserve Bank of India in priority sector lending. So there could be what is the wish of the regulator in terms of lending to the MSMEs. That's also mentioned over there. So and also key parameters in terms of NPA. The circulars may be that the circulars may be quite long and lengthy, but it's easier to maybe read some commentary on that. So those commentaries also may be available.
Yeah, actually that's more or less available in the newspapers also, so one can
yes. Yeah.
And sir, since SIDBI is also in the credit and lending domain, and there is a probability that they might ask you about say debt service coverage ratio, IRR, because ultimately it's lending, right, which banks also do, and they might also ask you about NPAs in India. So some people are not from finance background and they find all this really tough to comprehend, and they're really nervous before the interview. So till what depth one needs to prepare with respect to various definitions or ratios in the lending domain?
I would say that more than cramming the ratios, I think understanding the ratios as to what they serve is more important. So I think the need is really to understand the ratios at a conceptual level. So the panelists are not really looking at for you to share the exact formula. Because formulas are, you can do a Google search, you can always get a formula.
Yes.
And most of these lending tools come already with the formulas inbuilt in it. You key in the numbers and you get the ratios.
Exactly.
So, but then at a conceptual level, how it is done, what is it, how is it calculated? You're very right. Debt service coverage ratio or interest service coverage ratio, the IRR, the discounting rate that can be applied for discounting the future cash flows, the capacity utilization, and profit volume ratios.
Exactly.
The break-even point. So these are the concepts, I think, which from a project assessment point of view, evaluation point of view, are very, very important for any lender to know. And so while SIDBI would train their employees in these concepts, but I think a basic level or conceptual level of understanding is needed while they're appearing for the interview.
And sir, one resource we already know that SIDBI website is a very important resource, and within that you said SIDBI annual report, and maybe MSME, Ministry of MSME website. Any other key resource, sir, from where we can get a good amount of information to prepare for this interview?
I think if the conceptual understanding of the ratios are concerned, then I think there are quite a lot of YouTube videos also which are available. We can look at it.
Exactly. So, sir, now I will move on to the next part. As in, this is what we are preparing. What SIDBI is looking in a candidate. So, what are the key qualities that an interview panel looks for in a candidate? Because obviously, I mean, they are not pro. They need to be trained. So, what exactly they are looking for at that time when they are taking their interview?
So I think seriousness is what is important in the candidate, that he is serious of what he has done, maybe in the academics, in terms of whatever he's understood. So, and an analytical mind. So there could be questions like, just to test whether the candidate is able to think and have an independent answer rather than a crammed up answer. So that is something which is very important. Now, for instance, when we are talking about tackling of inflation, most candidates would have read that what RBI is doing. But then the other slightly tricky question could be, okay, what is the government doing to curtail inflation? So not many would be really be prepared for that kind of a question. Although it's a very simple question and having a very simple answer. But candidates would not be. So this is something which the interview you're sure to face one or two questions, something which is off the normal.
Yes.
So that the candidate, it tests the conceptual and analytical level. So one who is able to answer this kind of questions, I think he would have clinched it.
Right. So you talked about conceptual and analytical mind, but I think as in HR is also there, they might be looking into some behavioral aspect also, as in honesty, integrity. Now, in an interview, sometimes, sir, there is a very strange situation. You're asked something and their honesty is not right. No, it's not right. As mean, it will show that you're not being diplomatic. For example, if you are a UPSC aspirant, you have given 3-4 attempts, but you have not been able to clear. And they ask you that if you clear SIDBI, will you be giving further UPSC attempts? And in your mind, it is like you will give. But then saying yes will reduce your chances, maybe. That is what I'm asking, because they will feel that why to recruit somebody who is not at all clear, what is the future of him in SIDBI? So how to tackle such questions, sir?
I think one can be honest at the same time, be diplomatic about it. So, for instance, if this question was asked to me, then I would say that if I get a good profile and organization like SIDBI, I don't think there would be any motivation for me to left in appearing for civil services examination.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. So you can see, guys, you can see how experience matters, and sir has already told you how to be honest and diplomatic at the same time. So maybe you can use this approach. Sir, further, I mean, I just want to come to the last part of our interview. Any do's and don'ts, sir, which you feel for the interview are must for a candidate to know?
Well, one do is if you know the answer, you can straight away say, I know this and this is my understanding. Or you can say that, sir, I really don't know, but if I were to guess, this is my guess. I'm thinking aloud that this could be it. But never openly say that, okay, I'm very, very confident about an answer and actually keep bluffing about it if you don't have an understanding.
Great advice, sir.
Hmm.
And sir, any particular dress code that needs to be followed in an interview?
Formal dress.
With tie and all.
With tie, blazer, and properly trimmed. So kempt, not unkempt.
Yes. And normally there is a tendency, sir, when interviews are going on, people ask the candidates who have already given the interview कि क्या पूछा, क्या पूछ रहे हैं, या फिर if you are having the interview on the same day. So, sir, is it's a very normal thing for panel to repeat the questions to the next set of candidates? I mean, my point is that should you care that what is being asked to the previous candidates, or you should just relax before the interview and back your own knowledge?
So it will differ from panelist to panelist. Some panelists would keep one or two questions. They may like to repeat it and see who is answering the best. But I have never repeated a question to the candidate. It's always the candidate, and I always take the cue from his resume, his work experience, his educational background. So the idea basically from any panelist is not to show his knowledge of what he knows. Obviously, he will know better than the candidate, but the panelist is actually there to make the candidate comfortable and ask questions which will give him more confidence and look for honest answers from him. So, and then when the answers are there, so whether the understanding is quite deep enough or a superficial understanding. So, no panelist would be happy with superficial understanding. They are interested in knowing, whether the concepts are very clear, the fundamentals are clear or not.
Exactly. And sir, is there any standard interview duration when it comes to SIDBI interviews, or I mean, it is different for different candidates? And is there any relation between that longer the interview, better the interview, and you will get good marks? There are
I
some
don't think
perceptions
so.
like that.
No, those are misconceptions. Mostly the interviews range between 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And also it depends upon what hour of the day the interview is happening. Maybe early in the morning, it may be longer, but closer to the lunch, it would get shortened. Towards in the evening, in case because they have to, within the slot, they have to finish off the number of candidates.
And sometimes I think in the morning slot they give more time to the candidate. They are fresh also, and then suddenly after lunch you feel that yaar isko khatam kare jaldi, because anyways, I mean, they are able to judge candidates within say 10 minutes easily.
Absolutely.
And sir, sometimes in an interview there is a situation that you don't know an answer to the question, and you rightly said that if you want to guess you can say that I don't know, but if I have to guess I would do like this. But if there is a situation that you don't know, I mean, obviously you would say, sir, I don't know, but what is the right way to say that? And is it okay to say, I don't know? Because I think that will stop the matter there. They will not ask further questions on that. You're not aware of that area. So what is the right approach there, sir?
I think, yes, if you're not sure about it, you can say, sir, I'm not sure. I don't know this. I have no idea about it. In whatever way, the message has to say, go that, okay, I don't have an understanding on this topic.
Fine. I think that would be a safe approach, because many times I've seen candidates blurting out something and then landing in trouble because they don't have their concepts clear on that. Fine. I think, sir, we have discussed a lot of areas, and candidates would have got a lot of idea on how to prepare for SIDBI interview, what they are going to ask. Any last advice, sir, that you would like to give to aspirants who are going to appear for interview for SIDBI?
Just relax, be calm, composed, and give your best, and be honest. That's it.
Be honest. Be honest. That's the key word. Be honest. Do not try to fool. My father used to say that, no, कि जितना उनका work experience है उतनी तुम्हारी age भी नहीं होती है. So don't try to fool them. They have a lot of experience and they will be able to catch any lie very easily. So I thank you, sir, for taking out
Thank
some
you.
time. I hope you're
Thanks.
not late for your next meeting. And once again, thank you for coming on our channel and guiding the candidates. Bye bye, sir.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.